Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're jumping right in and setting the stage for a really fascinating deep dive into a profoundly important clinical homeopathic profile. We're going to look at the true anatomy of burnout, specifically through the lens of the remedy Phosphoricum acidum. If you've ever wanted to understand how the vital force speaks when it has absolutely literally nothing left to give, well, you're exactly in the right place. Okay, let's dive right into this, because the answer to this question is the absolute core of this remedy. With Phosphoricum acidum, we're dealing with incredibly high emotional stakes. Think about a patient who starts out with this massive, idealistic, almost superhuman burst of energy, and then they just crash headfirst into a totally devastating disappointment. It's this tragic journey from bright, burning idealism straight into a complete and total system failure. To navigate this, here is our agenda. First, the core of apathy. Second, the progression. Struggle, grief, and sluggishness. Third, physical symptoms and paradoxes. And finally, classic patient profiles. Let's start with section 1, the core of apathy. While you might initially spot sadness, melancholy, or depression in these patients, the true defining characteristic, the absolute spine of this entire remedy, is apathy. It runs straight through every single mental symptom. To understand the why behind this intense mental exhaustion, we have to look at the systemic root. This remedy belongs to the third superclass. That means their core fuel in life is affection, reciprocity, deep connection. They care for others just to get that love back. And because it's a mineral remedy, when things go wrong, they internalize it. They don't point fingers, they say, I wasn't capable enough, I just didn't do enough. Add in the psychotic miasm, and you've got someone who is constantly anticipating failure, desperately trying to prevent it, and hiding their flaws. The whole shebang creates a perfect storm for absolute mental exhaustion. And this brilliantly illustrates how that plays out. In clinical practice, it's absolutely crucial to differentiate this state. When we think of profound grief, we usually jump straight to ignatia, right? But look at the stark contrast here. Ignatia is loud, it's full of nervous spasms, fainting, and dramatic weeping. Phosphoricum acidum, on the other hand, is this quiet, inward burnout. It is silent apathy. They simply don't have the energy to cry or scream. They just shut down, turn their face to the wall, and disconnect. Moving on to section 2, the progression, from struggle to sluggishness. So that profound disconnection we just talked about, it doesn't happen overnight. There's a chronological timeline to this tragic descent. In the source material, this is beautifully summarized as luta, luto, and lint down. Struggle, grief, and sluggishness. Step 1 is the struggle. The patient is lively, super idealistic, putting in continuous, superhuman effort for a cause, maybe a business or a relationship. Then comes step 2, the grief. The ideal shatters. This could be a literal death, a divorce, or even a massive failure in exams. The expectation is completely broken. And that leads directly to step 3, sluggishness. All that vibrant energy just evaporates, leaving behind nothing but a wall-facing apathy, slow movements, and total mental paralysis. If you could somehow plug into the internal monologue of a Phosphoricum acidum patient who's reached that final stage of sluggishness, it would sound exactly like this. I don't have the strength anymore. I tried what I could, and now I don't know what else to do. It's not a plea for help. It's just a quiet, passive surrender. They fought the battle, they lost, and the tank is literally entirely empty. So the crucial point is knowing how to tell this apart from another famous remedy for silent grief, nature muriaticum. Both of these patients are going to isolate themselves. But if you walk into the room of a nature mura patient, they're going to be highly irritated that you're there. They actively push away consolation. But our Phosphoricum acidum patient, they want to be left alone purely because they lack the energy to interact. They are completely indifferent. You can sit right there with them, and they just won't care. Let's look at section 3. Physical symptoms and paradoxes. Now that we deeply understand the mental burnout, let's shift gears to the physical manifestations. These symptoms are like fascinating plot twists that perfectly mirror the mental state. Just as the mind is drained of emotional energy, the body is profoundly aggravated by the loss of physical vital fluids. Think profuse sweating, nursing a baby, or loss of semen. They have zero stamina. They might take a quick cat nap and wake up feeling briefly refreshed, but man, that battery drains incredibly fast. And a huge clinical indicator here is the typhoid state. Now, this doesn't just mean the literal disease of typhoid. It's any state where a mild physical illness, like a low-grade fever, comes with this profound, completely disproportionate mental prostration. The mind just surrenders at the very first sign of physical stress. And here we run into a brilliant paradox that you absolutely have to watch out for. This patient is extremely chilly, they are aggravated by the cold, and because of their apathy, their appetite is basically zero. Yet, completely contradicting all of that, they have this intense craving for refreshing, ice-cold, fizzy drinks or juicy fruits like watermelon. No way, right? It's such a specific, bizarre keynote, but it's a massive clue for your clinical analysis. Now, what's really interesting here is how the physical body takes on the exact same apathy as the mind. They develop these chronic ulcers on their extremities, these jagged, messy ulcers, but they are entirely painless. There's zero red inflammatory reaction. It's literally like the body's immune system has just given up the fight. Similarly, they suffer from painless, watery, light-colored diarrhea. And the strange thing, this diarrhea accompanies their state, but it doesn't actually worsen their physical weakness. The physical body has just completely stopped reacting to pain. When you connect the dots between these massive emotional crashes and chronic physical diagnoses, you'll find that Phosphoricum acidum is a premier remedy for diabetes. But not just any diabetes. This is diabetes triggered specifically by a period of intense grief, prolonged anxiety, or sexual excess. It comes with that signature extreme exhaustion and weight loss. On top of that, it's highly indicated for impotence in diabetic men, which perfectly links that loss of fluids and vital energy right back to the overall systemic collapse. Which brings us to Section 4, Classic Patient Profiles. Taking all of these concepts, let's paint a vivid picture of the struggling adolescent. Imagine a teenager going through rapid, exhausting growth spurts with genuine bone pain. They've been studying with this intense, idealistic focus, trying so hard to meet expectations, only to fail their exams. They get these crushing headaches that feel like a tight band wrapped around their head, which, strangely enough, feel better if you apply hard pressure. And to top it all off, they're dealing with the totally devastating loss of their very first romantic heartbreak. It's the classic arc: the struggle, the grief, the sluggishness. Let's move to the adults and see how this builds into those profiles. Picture an exhausted new mother. She's physically drained by nursing, again, that loss of vital fluids, and mentally crushed because despite giving it her absolute best, she feels completely inadequate and disappointed in her perceived failures. Or think about the crushed businessman. He's a true mineral remedy type who poured his entire soul, his energy, his very identity into a venture just to gain recognition and security. The business fails, the ideal dies, and he collapses into total, indifferent apathy. So, we've traced the anatomy of this profound burnout, from the initial, desperate, high-energy struggle all the way down to the final, quiet sluggishness where both mind and body just stop reacting. So I'll leave you with this provocative thought to carry into your practice today. Scan your memory right now. Do you have a patient sitting quietly, completely apathetic, turned to the wall, just waiting for this exact rescue? Keep Phosphoricum acidum in mind.